Hi friends, and welcome back to Homegrown and Homemade. Today I have a little sneak peek into my recipe collection, and I am going to be sharing with you a recipe that did not quite make the cookbook. So when I was writing my cookbook, I chose 50 recipes, and clearly I had a lot of inspiration to pull from. I could not include them all, but I want to share a delicious recipe with you straight from my grandma's kitchen that I know you're going to love. So both of my grandparents loved to cook and garden, and that was the inspiration behind my cookbook and this show, Homegrown and Homemade, a collection of recipes and stories straight from our family garden. So while I was writing this book, I found a cookbook that my grandpa was planning on publishing, but to my knowledge never did, and he had tons and tons of recipes in here. My grandpa liked to cook a lot of vegetables and meats. My grandma liked to add in a little bit of sweet stuff. So today we are going to be making my grandma's pound cake recipe. We're going to make it in a bundt pan, and you are going to be able to serve it with some fresh strawberries, fresh peaches. It is such a good summer cake because it's very simple. You don't have to ice it, and any of your fresh fruits, strawberries are in season right now. Peaches are going to be in season this summer. So it's a cake that you can enjoy all season long with all of your fresh fruits from the garden or the farmer's market. Okay, so I found two versions of this recipe when I was going through my collection of recipes. This was a typed up recipe that my grandma, she took some of her original recipes when she was still alive and typed them up and then emailed them to me, my sister, and my cousins, and always added really good commentaries and helpful tips for beginners. And so a lot of what I've put in my cookbook, I've included her notes to really help anybody just make homemade cooking approachable. So I love what she wrote here. It says, pound cake, Billy Wetz, close to 50 years old, the recipe. So this was at least back in the early 2000s. So this pound cake recipe is probably like 75 years old at least. So originally it was on this little card in her little binder, and she typed it up, sent it to me. This one on the bottom here, she had pound cake here, and then chocolate cinnamon cake. The chocolate cinnamon cake made it in the cookbook. So enough about the recipe. Let's talk about what you need to make it. So of course, you're going to need sugar. What is cake without sugar? So sugar, 1 cup of butter. Her recipe calls for shortening. I cook with butter. 4 eggs, a teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of flour. I am using King Arthur's 1-for-1 gluten-free substitute, so this will be a gluten-free pound cake. A 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in 1 cup of buttermilk. So I have 1 cup of buttermilk here. I'm gonna go ahead and add my little 1/4 teaspoon of soda. And y'all, Grandma did not tell me why to do this. There's no notes here. I don't know. So I just do it because the recipe says to do it. So if there's anybody out there who may know the reason for that, then feel free to chime in. And then vanilla. So first things first, let's go preheat our oven, 325 degrees. Next step will be to cream together your butter and sugar, either in a stand mixer or with a hand mixer. So 2 sticks of butter and 2 cups of sugar. Go ahead and start. Add in our eggs one at a time and continue mixing as we add them. It's a really simple cake recipe, not a lot to it, very simple ingredients, but again, you can dress it up with anything and it's so refreshing on a summer day. There's the eggs. You need to scrape down the sides a little bit. You can make sure all that butter is getting combined with the eggs. Okay, so in a separate little bowl, you're going to want to add your flour and salt together. So we're doing 3 cups of flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. So you're going to spoon and level flour. And the reason you add your salt with your flour or any dry ingredients together is so that you can give it a chance to incorporate together before you add it, so you don't have one like clump of salt in your liquid. Okay, so it just needs a little shake, and now we're going to add our flour and salt mixture alternately with the buttermilk soda mixture until well combined. So add a little bit of dry. If you've made my Italian cream cake, you use the same method. Dry, liquid, dry. About half the buttermilk. Flour, smelling good. Uh-oh. I didn't add our vanilla. If you've been around here a while, you know that sometimes I forget steps. So, we are going to, I don't know where my teaspoon is, so I'm gonna use the half. Do as I say, not as I do here. Add your vanilla after the eggs. And I was literally just sitting here thinking, you know what? This is a buttery vanilla cake. And I realized we didn't add the vanilla. So I'm glad I remember that, or else it would have just been like butter cake. So, vanilla. Oh! This is not my day today. A little bit of issues. It's okay. Just, the show must go on. At this point of the recipe, I like to make sure and read over, make sure we didn't forget anything. 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of butter, 4 eggs, teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of flour, soda in the cup of buttermilk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few tips about baking gluten-free. Do not overmix, for one. You don't want it to be tough, you don't want it to fall apart. Don't overmix. Secondly, if you have the time, or I suggest you plan to make the time to let it sit at this stage before I put it in the oven, before I put it in the pan. I'm going to let it sit, and what's gonna happen is the liquids combined with the dry ingredients, it will help it bind it together so that it doesn't fall apart on you. If you're baking with a gluten-containing flour, then gluten is the agent that binds a crumb together. So, because we don't have gluten, yes, this does have xanthan gum, which will allow it to help bind together. But if you allow it to rest for say 15 minutes, it's going to give it a better chance of being able to allow it to start binding together even without the gluten. So we're going to let it sit for a minute, give it a little break and a rest, and then we'll put it in the bundt pan and it'll be ready to bake. So you grease your bundt pan, gluten-free. Obviously, if you're not making it gluten-free, you can use a baking spray with flour, but I like to use this spray. You want it to be real sprayed so it won't stick. Into the oven it goes. We're going to check it at about an hour, but it could take up to an hour and a half to cook. A bundt cake is a bigger, thicker pan, and so those typically take a little bit longer to cook. We will check it at an hour, and we're looking for a toothpick going in and coming out clean to know that it's done. We've taken it out of the oven, and we are going to let this sit for at least 10 minutes in the pan so that it can loosen up a little bit before we attempt to turn it out onto a plate. All right, this is our moment of truth. My little cake pan comes with this little dish. Let's hope it flips out. Oh, look at it. It turned out perfect. I love it so much. I have not made this cake in a long time. I am so excited about it. A few little crispies. So right now strawberries are in season, and I love getting these from H-E-B. They are from Poteet, Texas, which if you're familiar with Texas, you know that Poteet is like the strawberry capital of the world. And I love that H-E-B partners with a grower there. And so these will be super fresh and delicious if you can't grow them yourself or go to a farmer's market or make it out to the farm. This is the next best thing. So I'm gonna slice up some strawberries, get a little whipped cream, and have a piece of cake. All right, y'all, moment of truth. I've got a little props here because I had to take some photos, but we are going to cut into this baby and taste it. Okay, it's got a nice crust. Let's look at it on the inside. Look how dense and delicious that looks. Oh my goodness, y'all. Don't tell me gluten-free baking has to be boring and bland. Okay, I have a little whipped cream, my little helper here. Like, do a little squirt right there. You push it. Okay, got it? Okay. Nice. Okay, we have a little bit more here. Okay, one more photo and then the taste test. Okay. so much for watching this. You'll be able to find the printable recipe on my blog, and also if you have not already gotten a copy of my cookbook, Homegrown Homemade, you can order it